Hey there, folks. Robby Celestin here. Just wanted to talk a little bit before this amazing episode. First and foremost, I just wanted to apologize. I'm launching this episode a little bit late in the game. It's been an interesting run. I was in Palm Springs performing, and then I had a couple of shows in Rome, and it just sort of took up all my time, but they were amazing, amazing journeys, and I'm probably going to have some sort of solo podcast so I can share the experiences with you because it's cool stuff. Right now, I'm in the middle of preparing for a TED Talk, which is another exciting adventure I'm going to talk about. But anyway, all these things added up to me being a little bit late on the launching of a new episode. But here we are. We're back together. I'm here. You're here. We're together again. So I hope you enjoy this upcoming episode. I want to give you a little disclaimer. There is an amazing man you are about to meet named Billy Shelton. He's an amazing musical historical figure. He's going to teach you how to truly do this from the heart, how to be a better person as well as a better singer. And he has such interesting tales because this guy was alive in the early 1900s, and I asked him about that. I wanted to know if there were, horses in the streets. Guess what? There were. So you're going to hear about that. You're going to hear about his journeys, especially driving through a racially charged part of America in the 60s. He's going to talk to you about heading to the other side of the world on a USO tour. I was with him for this, so you're going to get some great backstory, and you're going to learn how he saved me. You're going to learn how he prevented me from leaving the music business. So all this stuff is coming up right now. Oh, one more little disclaimer. Billy Shelton lives in Northwest Indiana, where my mother resides. So at some point, I think I say, I'm doing this remotely for the first time. Not true. This is like my fourth time doing this. However, I never did this from my mother's house, but Billy lived close by, and I thought, let me leave Chicago and my usual recording space, make it a little bit easier, and do this near Billy's. And I thought it was a treat to record from my mom's place. However, you're going to hear a couple of things that any audio engineer would consider a nightmare. I didn't exactly think about the soundproofing issue there. There's going to be random noises, telephones, clocks donging. And at some point, I'm even going to cut a part of the episode and take a quick break to tell my mom to talk a little more quietly on the phone. So this is a serious homegrown episode you are about to hear. So feast your ears on this. Now you've been warned. I think there's even some buzzing that would not normally happen, but there must have been something going on. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I plugged it in the same outlet that the dryer was using. I don't know. But anyway, it's a treat. It's homegrown with all of the little audio issues in the way. You're still going to get a great, great episode. Hey, we're back. We're all back. It's great to feel your presence again. I hope you like this. Feast your ears on this new episode. Here we go. Enjoy. Have you ever tested to see how low you can go? Like your lowest note? Have you ever?
You always do that. You want to hit your low note and see,
Do you even know what your lowest note is?
Yeah, low A.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, man. I couldn't even pick that out of the air. See, it sounds so wimpy when I try to do it.
Yeah, you do everything else, so I trade off with you in a minute.
What if you greeted everybody with, hello, this is a chatter of fact? How low can you do that?
I don't talk as low as that because I sing different.
So it's more singing. So would you be able to go, this is a chatter of fact?
This is a chatter of fact.
Look at that rumble. Look at that rumble. Ladies and gentlemen, we're rolling. We are rolling right now. You are listening to a chatter of fact. These are not interviews. These are conversations. And in the history of this show, about 3 years in, if I could choose somebody that I just couldn't wait to get on this mic, it's Billy Shelton. This guy is a legend. He's a legend in my mind, and he's a legend in music. He is a member of the mighty Spaniels. Goodnight Sweetheart, well, it's time to go. That's this guy. Do you hear it? That's this guy. Oh, man, I'm so happy. I've had the pleasure of working with Billy a couple of times, and I'm fascinated because I got to tell you, man, when you and I have been, so folks, you probably heard this on the podcast where I get hired to do some background singing. And for a while, I was in a stint where I did some backgrounds for some pretty famous acts. And I was singing with an a cappella group called Stormy Weather with Billy Shelton here, who happened to work with Stormy Weather as well. And I would stand next to you when we were backstage. I would stand next to you as all the the tokens and the people that sing all these songs,
Right.
all these singers that came up. I'd stand next to you and know that I could meet them because they would all beeline it right to you and say, "Oh, Billy, hey, Billy, hi, Billy."
Yeah.
You are a favorite.
Can you loan us $5?
Two things. So, folks, Billy Sheldon, 83 years young, man, and this guy is still doing it. You're still out there. You're still working all the time. You are on stage, and not only are you on stage, man, here's what I love. You're mobile. You're moving out there. And you sound great. You look great.
I get that from you.
I mean, I want to get into your story, but I have to tell you, man, two moments in my performing life that meant the most. Actually, three. But one was you and I were at the Star Plaza Theater performing at one of the big oldie shows, and you and I are sitting there, and I think we already did our set. And as we're sitting there, you looked at this crowd, and I don't know, there's something like 3,500 people there, I think. And you just said, "Look at that. Like that's what this is all about. Like these people are happy. We made them happy.
You're making them happy."
I mean,
isn't that something?
Yeah, you brought it all, and you were saying that after we had thousands of people cheering for us, and we come in, and I love the fact that you didn't go in this place where see how good we are. You went to look what we just did for these people.
Right.
That changed.
That's what it's all about, man.
For me, at the time, being a young singer who still thought I knew my stuff, I was learning so much every time I spent a minute with you. And that was a big deal, though, man, was you saying those words. That was that. And I remember asking you, I would notice that some of the acts would come and they would still sound great, and then some not as great, and they were probably in their 70s, and right. I would ask you, one time I asked, how do they still keep going? Why do some of them still sound good? And you once told me that the people who sound good are the ones that never stopped doing it.
Wow, you remember all of that.
Hey, man, I've got a Billy Bible, man. I follow the word of Billy. I mean, like I said, I'm such a fan of yours. So it's really important for me to remember and to share that with you, how much those words meant to me.
Yes.
I mean, that was huge. And do you still believe that? I mean, is that what it is? Because you get to see and know these people who are doing it for years and years and years.
Well, Robby, I think this way. I think that the gift that you have, God gave that gift to you.
Okay.
Like in your case, you can sing anything you want. You can any octaves you want to do. Your voice is at your command. This is something that you have, and you can even walk a tightrope while you're doing it. That's the unique thing about you. So the gift that you have, that's God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God. You can take it and use it to get drunk or to make a quick buck, or you can use it to help people, to make people a little happier,
Yeah.
And that's giving it back to God.
Well, you do it, man. I mean, again, you still sound so good, and I got to record with you. So folks, you know what? I'm not even going to get into that right now. I'm going to get into you right now. 83 years old. I mean, where'd you grow up?
In Chicago.
Did you? Okay.
I was born in Chicago on the South Side. Incidentally, have you ever heard of John Dillinger?
Yeah. Bank robber, famous bank robber.
I tell everybody that John Dillinger was my babysitter. I came face to face with John Dillinger when I was in the crib.
Get out of here.
What happened, J. Edgar Hoover was probably the most degenerate of all human beings.
Wow.
He could not stand for people to be in the news more than he was. Well, John Dillinger was, every time the paper would come out, he had robbed a new bank.
Yeah.
And John Dillinger was unique in the fact that he never shot anybody and he never killed anybody.
Huh.
He came along. A lot of people mistake him as a gangster. He was not a gangster. Al Capone was a gangster. Bugs Moran was a gangster. Lucky Luciano. John Dillinger represented the last of the outlaws.
Jesse James style.
Jesse James. See,
wow.
The difference in a mafia hitman or you being in with the syndicate, if I don't like you, I would call New York and have the mob to come out and to assassinate you. And you could have your kids with you. You know, it doesn't make any difference, you know.
Yeah.
I pay the money, it's impartial. That's the way a gangster does. An outlaw, if an outlaw doesn't like you, they tell you, hey, get your gun and meet me on the street. We're going to shoot it out. So that's a little different, you know.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man, but so that, okay.
Man, we could use you on, we're going to do Sitting on the Dock of the Bay tomorrow, and nobody in the group knows how to whistle.
You know,
man, I'd give.
I should come out just for the whistle.
I'll pay you $1,000 just.
I don't know what it is about that particular tune too. The highest point of that tune, I always screw up a little bit. Like, oh, I can't hit that whistle note, so I always have my guys whistle for me. But I have this tune called "The Way" where I do a whistle solo.
Yeah.
It's a song that actually intros this show, and there's a little
thing.
You
got it. Yeah. Man, I could. You know the story of Otis Redding, don't you? The Dock of
By the
Bay.
way, folks, this guy is a historian. He's lived it. He knows these people. So every time we talk about a random song, you're going to hear something like this. But go on there. I had to let him know.
Otis tried so hard. He was more of a gospel singer.
Uh-huh.
And he tried so hard to get a big hit, and he couldn't do it, you know. People liked him. His records would get close, but never the big monster hit that he wanted.
Huh.
So he recorded this song Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. Age of 27, I believe. He was in an airplane crash, and his life was gone.
Oh, wow.
And right after the airplane crash...
I didn't know how he went.
Yeah, they released the record. The record goes all the way up to number one. Isn't that ironic?
So did that record get released once before and didn't hit, or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
Only after he died, it was just like Sam Cooke did the song, A Change Is Gonna Come. It was Willie Rogers that got to sing it because Sam Cooke never got a chance to do it in public.
So A Change Is Gonna Come, when that got famous, Willie Rogers or Sam Cooke wasn't quite alive when it got as big.
He wasn't alive. Then he'd been murdered.
Oh, that's so interesting to me, man.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the Otis Redding thing either. And so Willie Rogers, to me, he's a dead ringer for Sam Cooke.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And I mentioned this at the top of the show. Not only is Billy in the Spaniels, which we'll get into because it's a famous doo-wop group, he's in the Soul Stirrers, and the Soul Stirrers was Sam Cooke's group, right? It was a gospel group that
That's
Sam
Willie
Cooke was
Rogers, yeah. He actually replaced Sam Cooke.
Okay.
I think he was like the fourth replacement.
And that's the only gospel group in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that I know of, that I heard of.
Right.
So Willie Rogers, like, how long did he grow up near Sam? Is he a friend of Sam Cooke's?
Willie Rogers is from the South,
okay,
West Virginia, or someplace like that, that's where the real music was. They grew up in the farm singing to the birds and everything, and he was close to his family and dad, you know, so he was put on the right track. And he came to Chicago, and he sang with the group that Sam Cooke sang with at first, the Highway QCs.
Okay.
And he's followed Sam Cooke's path, just like Johnny Taylor. Johnny Taylor sang with the Highway QCs. Then when Sam was killed, Johnny Taylor was the first to take his place with the Soul Stirrers. And then Johnny Taylor left the gospel just like Sam Cooke to go out into the pop world.
Wow.
So it's really interesting to see how.
And a lot of those famous old soul acts, they grew up like on the south side of Chicago. A lot of these guys.
That's where the music was. Yeah.
Really, because man, Sam Cooke and the Dells. Oh, what a night! Yes.
We're going out to see Chuck Barksdale. You know, he's.
I don't know who's Chuck.
He's the bass singer
for
the Dells, and at one time, man, the Dells, they could blow any other group off the stage when it came to singing. I'm not talking about choreography or production, but just flat down singing, they could stand up and just blow. With Marvin Jr., this guy
as a lead singer,
inspired Tom Jones, Teddy Pendergrass, all of that came from Marvin.
I got to tell you something. I know that they were modeled. That was a group that they used for the movie The Five Heartbeats.
Right, and that's them singing all in the background.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
And you can really appreciate it listening to them on.
I was a kid in an a cappella group, and my a cappella group after our first paid gig, that movie came out, and we used our pay, and let's go see that movie. So we went to see it, and there's a part in the movie where the lead singer holds this note out really long. And
Stay in My Corner.
Well, it was for the movie. It was a song called "A Heart Is a House."
Okay, yeah, right, in the movie, right.
But they hold the note out,
right,
and it's actually Marvin from the Dells. But that inspired me. That did something to me. I thought, man, that thing, he's holding that note out. And then I heard "Stay in My Corner,"
right.
And then I started performing "A Heart Is a House" and holding that note out with my a cappella group, and it became a thing. And now the long note has become a thing that I do a lot in my shows now, but it's based on him, on Marvin, because man, that "Stay in My Corner," guys, listen to "Stay in My Corner," find it just to listen to that note forever. He holds it forever, but here's what I like about it. He would hold it so long, and then at the end, just to let you know that he still had some gas in the tank, he hits it at the end. So he's like, beep, beep! Like he hits it even harder when he's done.
I could go to the men's room when he hit the note, and then I'd be back in my seat before he started.
So did you know those guys?
Oh, I grew up with them.
You grew up with the Dells?
With the Dells and the Flamingos.
Now, what songs did the Flamingos have out?
I Only Have Eyes for You.
Oh, my God. And I only have eyes.
They were Black Hebrew. That was their religion. They were originally from the Baltimore area. They moved to Chicago. So I used to go to church with them. And they were unique in this respect. In that church, they would teach you, this would be part of the church. They would teach you how to sing.
Oh, wow.
And you could sing all the parts. You grew up in the church. If you were a tenor singer, at the age of 7, you knew how to sing tenor. And then, so Johnny Carter, who was the lead singer, we're talking about the Dells.
Yeah.
He left the Dells and ended up with he left the Flamingos. That was his original group. He left the Flamingos and ended up with the Dells. And he could sing from bass to soprano. Yeah. And that was part of their gimmick, their act, because he would hit the low notes that Chuck Barksdale would have trouble with, and then Chuck would get mad and, man, I'm going to beat you up. You're making me look bad and all of that. But that was their gimmick.
Oh, man. I want to get into your history.
All right.
I have to. So when did you start singing?
When I was 3 years old, I was singing professionally.
3?
Yeah. We lived up over like a tavern, and the drunks would come in there. And when I was like...
This was in Chicago?
In Chicago.
Okay.
On 46th and Vincennes, that's where we lived. And right down the street was a movie theater called the Apollo. And about 2 blocks the other direction was the Regal Theater. You heard of that in Chicago.
That was like Chicago's Apollo Theater, right?
Right, yeah. Right. But they actually had a theater called the Apollo, but it was a movie, and it was next to the Palm Grove Tavern.
Okay.
But when I was about 2.5, I could listen to the radio, and anything I could hear on the radio, I could mimic it pretty close, for a kid especially.
Yeah.
So when we moved to 46 in Vincennes, some wino heard me singing, and he took me and stood me on a soapbox, and I performed. And at the end of the performance, the drunks would give me nickels and dimes and quarters.
Here's my question. Do you remember what that first song was?
Probably an Ink Spot song or Mills Brothers song, because those were the popular groups then.
So we're talking like 1933?
No. This is like 1937, 36 to 37.
Oh my gosh, man.
And so I could do that, and the amazing thing happened. My father, he was a Pullman porter. That was a good job back then.
He was a what?
A Pullman porter on the train.
Okay.
And that was a good job for a black man during the Depression. That was good. He was lucky
What
to
did
have
a Pullman porter do? I don't even...
he shines people's shoes and brings stuff here,
Oh, okay.
and
Wow.
everything. Yeah. So anyway, what happened is that my father liked to drink. He had some of the old Irish blood. Yeah, he loved it. So he was out of money. Then they just paid the bills. And my mother told me this. My father was desperate. All my money that I got, my nickels and dimes and quarters, I put in the piggy bank. He got a hammer and he busted the piggy bank. I think I'd been singing about 9 or 10 months.
Oh, man.
You know how much money he got out the piggy bank? Over $100. Isn't that something?
And back then,
that was some money. I was making more money than he was.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so I tell everybody jokingly, when I started at the age of 3, I was standing on a soapbox, a platform, performing for a bunch of drunks and getting nickels and dimes and quarters. I'm doing the same thing today.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. So did you have brothers and sisters? Mm-hmm. How many?
I had 2 sisters and 1 brother. And my brother was in World War II. He was in the Army.
Oh, wow.
And so I was raised basically without a father, my sisters and my mother, So I grew up in church, singing church songs, and the only difference, I didn't get paid singing in church. I made more money on the soapbox. Yeah.
I have to ask then, because I'm talking to an 83-year-old gentleman here. What is life like when you're like in Chicago when you're 5, you're 6 years old, and you're looking around, as opposed to today? Like what you did say when you were sitting down, there were more horses than cars at that time.
More horses than cars, and at the end of every block, there was a water thing for the horses.
Oh, really?
And you'd have to be careful if you walked in the street. A lot of road apples, that's the horses.
A lot of horse stuff all over the place.
Yeah, a lot of horse stuff and everything.
No kidding.
And everybody used horses, and they all had a tune to whatever they did.
Really?
The watermelon man would come with his horse, and he'd say, E-O-A, get your red ripe watermelon here. Hey, watermelon man, come up and bring me some melons, And then the sewing machine guy, I buy any old sewing machine. He had a horse. Then the rag man would come. All of them had a song.
They had a tune.
They had a tune, and you would know without going out the house who it was,
That is insane. That is so cool. That's like the first version of how kids knew the Ice Cream Man when I was a kid,
Right.
Wow, how interesting. So you were hearing, you were surrounded by original artists when you were 6.
Joe Louis, the great Joe Louis,
yeah.
a lot of people believe that he was the greatest heavyweight that ever lived.
Yeah.
He used to come by and buy us ice cream.
Really?
He'd take us, he loved kids.
Huh.
And I met Satchmo when I was a little kid in Chicago.
Get out of here.
He had driven all the way from New Orleans, and he was sleeping in his car. And we woke him up, said, hey, mister, ain't you Satchmo?
Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm Satchmo. I'm tired, too. I drove all the way from New Orleans. But he, as tired as he was, he had the time to spend with kids because he loved us.
Oh, wow.
He loved kids so much.
So you first start singing when you're 3. Then you're picking it up where? In the church? How did you refine it? Because I've worked with you now. Like, you know your way around a harmony like nobody's business, And folks, as low as he's singing, he can still sing the higher notes. He'll give you every pitch you need if you need him to, to give you an arrangement. So where did you refine it then? Where did you get it?
My mother.
Really?
My dad was a preacher.
Okay.
Because after she broke up with my biological father, and it's a funny thing because he would pick fights with her when he'd get drunk. He was the nicest guy in the world when he was sober. He'd get a few drinks, he would start a fight with her. He'd hit her or something. And that was like suicide because my mother was one of the meanest people in the world, and she had a lot of Indian blood. And she had no mercy on you,
Really?
And so she'd always beat him up. He's the one who would end up in the hospital.
Yeah. That is not how I expected that story to end. Oh, man.
Right.
All right.
So anyway, they finally broke up, and she married a minister.
Okay.
And the minister was, his name was James Oliphant, and he was my stepfather, but I knew him more of as a father than my biological, because he's the one who raised me.
Yeah.
So I grew up in church. I sang all the church songs, and the way I got my training, my mother was a choir director, and what she would do, she'd moonlight. She'd work for 3 or 4 different churches, and they all paid her.
Oh, wow.
To train the choirs. In each church, you had the youth choir, you had the gospel chorus, you had the senior choir, you had the male chorus. So she'd have about 4 or 5 different choirs in every church. She could play the piano and sing.
Huh.
So she carried me around with her, and whichever group didn't show up, like sopranos, when I was a kid, I could sing soprano. Billy, my sopranos didn't show up. Go over in the soprano section, so I'd have to do that. The altos didn't show up this week. Go to the altos. The tenor singers didn't show up. So that's how I got into the music thing.
Wow, that's amazing. And then when did you start forming your own groups and stuff? Or where did that kind of, all these noises, this is my first time, folks, this is my first time doing this remote. I always do this near TTW Studios in Chicago. I came here because I wanted to make my way here to Northwest Indiana,
and quiet.
where Billy actually lives, and we commandeered my mother's home because my mom lives here. I feel like a kid again, like I'm going to set up a show at Mom's house, which is great, but I'm hearing phones and clocks, and I'm waiting for like a mini little train to come by or something. But anyway, your first group.
Well, it was natural, You find another guy who could sing, who could carry a tune. It was one guy that I remember, Floyd Farrington. I guess I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
This guy would imitate a train. Of anything that made noise, Floyd would do it.
Nice.
He might not have been the world's greatest singer, but he could mimic sounds. So the way it ended up, in the year 1948, we moved to Gary, Indiana, and I met Pookie Hudson, Calvin Fawcett. So we formed a group together. I was the instructor and the low voice of the group because, harmony is actually only three parts,
Uh-huh.
It's like first tenor, second tenor, and lead, It's three parts. Baritone gets in there,
Yeah.
but
But your typical doo-wop
yeah,
setup,
doo-wop,
yeah.
right. It's
Yeah.
three-part harmony. So if you had a lead singer,
Mm-hmm.
then you had a high singer to sing the high notes, then you had a baritone singer to harmonize.
Yeah.
So I was doing the baritone. Pookie did the lead singing, and Calvin Fawcett was our
You
tenor.
remember the name of that first group?
The three B's, and we got named by Vivian Carter, the great Vivian
Whoa.
Carter. Yeah.
Now, folks, Vivian Carter is one of the all-time famous American DJs. Who kind of did her own thing, played, brought the soul music to the airwaves before it became kind of a mainstream deal. Correct?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You can Google Vivian Carter, guys, and you'll see a lot of cool stuff on her. So she named you.
Right.
You met Vivian Carter.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
1948. Now you can imagine going back to what was everybody doing in 1948? We had
know.
a group. In our group, we would go to churches and sing YMCA's,
Yeah.
the radio, Coca-Cola thing. We did real good. And Vivian Carter's name, she named us the three B's because she said you sing boogie, blues, and ballads, So that was, and she needed a group to record because she wanted to start a recording label. All right, so that went okay because we were happening. We had lovely harmony and stuff like that in 1948. So it just happened before we could record. The day that we were supposed to go to Chance in Chicago, because at that time she didn't have any money and she didn't have a label. She had to go to the pawn shop and borrow $500 to go to Chance, to put something on the label.
Chance was a recording studio?
In Chicago,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And so it started off, Baby It's You was the first song the Spaniels put out, 1953. She took the money that she made from that because the record caught on, and then she produced VJ
Records.
which was her name, her first initial,
Yeah.
and her husband.
How did it went from the three B's to the Spaniels? How'd that happen?
Well, two of us graduated from school that year.
Uh-huh.
Pookie didn't graduate. He stayed in school.
Oh, okay.
By this time, the guys that used to come to our rehearsals and sit in our rehearsals and everything,
Yeah.
they begged Pookie to sing with them. Say it's a talent show going on. And by that time, Pookie was a big guy because we were popular,
I see.
And so that's the way the Spaniels formulated. When Calvin and I graduated in 1952, that was the time that the Spaniels was created,
Okay.
by name, And like I say, it's the breadcrumb trail. If it hadn't been for the three B's, there would be no Spaniels because the Spaniels were just an extension of
Sure.
the three B's. No Spaniels, no VJ Records.
Wow.
No VJ Records, no Motown.
Yeah, you're right.
Because the people who ran VJ, later when they found out that the mafia took it over, they all quit. It was a guy named Ewart Abner, they had Abner Records, that was a part of the VJ. And he noticed it was a young kid going around with records, albums and shopping bags in Chicago, and he was aggressive, and he wrote songs. So he pulled the kid over to the side and said, if we got together, we could probably do good because I've got the experience, you got the drive and the energy, and this young man said, yeah, but I don't know anything about making records. He said, well, I can get the people who worked at VJ, they could come back, if they knew we were starting something new. And that young man happened to be Berry Gordy. So that's the way Motown got.
You could trace Motown to Gary, Indiana.
Right.
Oh my God, that's insane. That's insane. I didn't even know Berry Gordy spent any time in Chicago or any of that, or wherever he was.
Oh yeah, that's where he worked.
Oh wow.
And he wrote the music for Jackie Wilson. He's a great songwriter.
Yeah.
And he had the idea that he could run a recording studio just like the assembly line. He was an auto worker in Detroit. And whatever you did, you stayed in that field. You didn't go out of that field, like running a line. And it worked,
Oh yeah, it didn't. He did all right with Motown. They did okay.
and at the end, the guy Ewart Abner ended up being the president of Motown.
Oh wow!
The same guy who had the power of attorney at VJ ended up being the president.
So then, how is it you got to through your travels? Because again, you know all these folks. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'll stand next to you whenever I'm lucky enough to sing background. I was so happy when I met you because I got to sing some of these backgrounds. We sang for was it Maurice Williams?
Right.
Stay, just a
yeah,
little.
and he's the one who first put out Little Darling. He wrote that too.
Oh, okay.
But the Diamonds got famous off of Little Darling.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, because they
yeah.
did a re-recording of it, which was actually more popular than the original.
Yeah.
So,
how did you keep yourself working all those years? I mean, how many groups were you working with at the time? Because now you're with the Spaniels, which is so cool that you're like right back where you started.
Right.
And then obviously the Soul Stirrers. So you're with two very staple, legendary groups right now.
Right. Now, the Spaniels, I'm the last living one of the Spaniels.
Oh, man.
From the early days.
Man, oh, man.
And I'm so... I'd like to carry on that. And when the BBC called me up, they were going by the strength of the record Goodnight Sweetheart. I have heard that Goodnight Sweetheart has used to close more shows than any other song. And they said that's only second to Happy Birthday throughout the world.
I can believe it.
So in England, they said, well, we want to find out more about the group that actually did that, because as soon as the Spaniels recorded it in 1954, it hit the charts. The McGuire sisters got it, and they sold millions, Then, right after that, Sha-Na-Na with Bowser,
Yeah, and that was like the 70s or something?
And
those guys?
they sold mega millions. That song made the group. Bowser told me himself, when we were going into the Hall of Fame in Youngstown, he said, Billy said, if it were not for Goodnight Sweetheart, I wouldn't be around. So that song has done more for me than anything. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how did you like life, traveling and touring, all that kind of stuff? I mean, was that a joy for you, or is it, after a while, does it get to be too much?
Well, I tell you what, I feel the same way you do, Robby.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice. That's just, I'm committed. That's part of my life.
Yeah.
If I couldn't sing anymore, I'd put a shotgun to my head. Music has done so much for me throughout my life.
Yeah.
And I just want to make people happy doing it, as long as I can. And I'm going to be singing until they lower the crank on me, Yeah.
I love it, man. I mean, and you've seen the landscape change so much, or does it all in a way feel the same? When you're doing this in the 60s and then the 70s and then the 80s and now we're into the 2000s.
It's the same story.
Yeah.
I used to love to read Greek mythology.
Oh.
And Orpheus was the god of music, you know.
Uh-huh.
And music is so powerful that he was able to go into death and get his sweetheart, and he was bringing her back. The guy with the Grim Reaper
Uh-huh.
was so touched by his music that he let him bring his girlfriend back to Earth, you know. But if you follow that story, it all ended in tragedy.
Yeah.
Because worshipers of Bacchus, these are people, the wine drinkers and the drug users and all of that's so closely knit to music, entertainment. The first thing somebody wants to do to show that they're friendly is say, hey, let me buy you a drink. You know, and they don't mean any harm by that. But if a singer took everybody up on that, he'd be an alcoholic in a week, you know. And that's literally what happened. I've seen guys with clear heads and vision start off, and you name it. All of the stories ended up in tragedy. As a matter of fact, Jim Morrison of The Doors wrote a book called Nobody Gets Out of Here Alive. He's talking about entertainers and show business.
Oh, wow.
And that's something's going to get you. If it's not the alcohol or the drugs or the women, a lot of times fame gets to your head. You know, you got 10,000 people telling you you're the greatest.
Yeah.
You start believing that stuff yourself.
I got to say, man, I need to know how this... I feel like you were always this peaceful, loving guy. I can't picture like terrible tearing it up Billy Shelton. Was there ever that? Like, because you
No.
And I totally believe that because I've known you for many years, and I feel like people don't change it that much.
That's right.
And I've come across some older singers, some famous, some not. I'm not even going to mention any names, and some have been very gracious. And some you could still tell, like, this guy was probably a kind of a jerk back in the 60s, even worse then when he was really big. And now, you know, he's still a nostalgic figure, and still there's thousands of people coming to see him. And I'm always surprised by that. But here's what I need to know is, I mean, let's teach the singers of America or the celebrities of America, anybody that wants that dream, how did you do this? Because people, I'm talking to you listeners, like I've never met anybody more just pure in this business than Billy Shelton, than this man. This is why I love this man so much, because of his joy, the joy that he shares. His joy of singing is just so shared more than anyone I ever met. But how did you not stay tainted or angry? Because let's face it, because of like everything you just said, either ego, booze, drugs, whatever it is, not many people get out of here as good people, you know?
Right.
How did you maintain this? You're 80 years now. How'd you do it?
Well, one thing, I'm like you. I had a great family. And I would never want to do anything to disgrace my family. That kept me going. So when the guys say, "Hey, try this," or let's say, no, that's okay. You know, I'd never let anything get in between me and the vision. You know.
Yeah.
And it's the same way. I may never make any money or be famous, but I'm happy in the fact that I have stayed the course. And I've had some influence on some of the younger guys. And Robby, I just have to tell you that I told you before, I have adopted you many years ago because you are one in a million. I mean, it's amazing that I didn't fall, but it's more amazing that because you're coming through the age where kids are raised by computers and stuff like that, and fast money, and things have been happening for you. You've been blessed because you guided your talent in the right way, and things have happened, but you've never changed. You're still Robby. You know what I mean?
Oh man, I appreciate that. I mean, you're gonna make me cry. No, seriously, I appreciate it. And this is something I've told this little story to people, but you actually saved me in music. You saved me years ago because, so folks, what ended up happening is I was going through the record label things and doing all my stuff before just becoming an independent artist, you know, not at first by choice, but it just became the best option for me. But I was still, when it looked like the big thing, like the major record label thing wasn't quite going to happen, I was doing some moonlighting singing, and I was singing with this a cappella group, and that's how I got to meet the amazing Billy Shelton. And you and I were singing together in that group for a bit, and it was great. And just, you know, I mean, you're not only are you talented, but your spirit. I'm always drawn to you, you know. But I don't even know if you remember this, but I pulled you aside once when I realized, okay, the big record label, I don't think it's going to happen. And I told you, I think I'm going to quit singing. And you told me, you said, wait, what? Wait a minute. Robby, you said, Robby, you don't have to be famous to sing for a living. Because I thought if I didn't get a big fat record deal, I'd never make it. And you said, no. He goes, Chicago's right here. There are a lot of opportunities. Now don't you quit singing. And then you put me. I'm gonna start crying. I'm trying to hold it because you changed my life. Then you put me on like one or two shows with your band. I can't remember, was it 11th Avenue maybe? Or
11th Avenue at that time. Yeah.
And when I did those two shows with you, I got inspired to, okay, I'm not leaving. But I remember specifically looking around, and you had such great vocalists, and I remember thinking to myself, this man does not need me on this gig, and I think this man put me on these two gigs just to kind of give me that one last kick in the pants to say, don't you quit. And it worked, Billy, because then I attacked Chicago and I started doing the piano bar scene, and now I've become whatever you want to call it, a small local celebrity. I've become big enough to where I can sell my CDs.
You love people too much to quit.
I do. But had you not done that, I was walking out the door, and you saved me.
I remember that.
You do, and I could never thank you enough, because all of these things that I've been able to do, including this podcast and other things, I mean, it would not be happening because I'd be doing something that probably would not make me happy, whatever I was going to end up doing, because I was not happy. But you stopped me right in my tracks, and I can never thank you enough, and I will love you for the rest of my life just for that one thing. Not only because you're a great person, but you did that for me, and you didn't have to. You know.
Well, Robby, the same thing. I can turn it back on you. You have shown me that there is a balm in Gilead, and and you've been an example of somebody who's been successful. You know, maybe not the Michael Jackson category, but somebody who's been successful, who their head hasn't exploded and everything like that.
Yeah, there's some about that, finding those people that just love it, just the act of it. You know, it's a crazy thing, man.
And it's a crazy. About 98% of the artists out there, don't know what we're talking about.
Right, you're dead on, and I don't know why that is. At some point, I don't know where it goes wrong. At some point, I think people start doing it for the wrong reason, right?
Right.
You know, and then what I wonder then, maybe at that point, maybe they never did it for the right reason in the first place. You know, because I've actually worked with some people who were amazingly talented, but they just couldn't live right, or they'd spent more time on their ego or maybe on drugs than they did the act of it. And I look at them and I start to realize later on that, oh man, I was trying to keep them working with me because they were so good. And in my mind, well, if you're that good, you have to do this. But maybe they didn't really want it for the right reasons anyway.
Right.
You know, I think a lot of those people wanted the attention, or they wanted the drugs, or they, whatever it is. You know, and I'm talking about like the heavy drugs that, you know, you don't walk away from, you know, and that's what happened. I worked with one guy, an amazing player, and he got this great gig in the city, and I was working with him part-time. And I found out toward the end of our relationship working together that, you know, he was hitting some pretty heavy stuff, you know. And this guy had such a sweet deal, and he was making so much money, and then he had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And then they said, you know what, you're living fast. Don't put that stuff in your body anymore because it's not going to be good for you. I'm telling you. And he lived right for about, you know, another month and a half, 2 months, and he was a piano player. And sure enough, he jumped back into it, and coke was his thing, you know. Had a stroke, and half of his body stopped working. Could never play again, lost his job. I mean, it's scary,
right.
You know. But I also remember when I worked with him, I was so enamored by his talent, and I thought, oh, this is great. But every time we talked, sometimes he'd get in a zone, and he'd start singing, and he'd do his thing and feel great. But then other times, 80% of the time, he was just talking about what he's going to do after the show, or talking about how much money we're going to make, you know. And I thought, this isn't fun. I don't want to talk about that, you know.
I could not tell you how much money I made at any particular show. That's what it means to me.
Oh my God.
But I can tell you, shows that are profound in my memory are shows that we got to the point, the Spaniels. Here's what I did. They started in church. So by me being a church guy, you know, I said, well, look, let's do this. Let's go back to church. And what we'll do, we will go and sing at churches for love offerings. Now, that's suicide, you know, because here we're going to Michigan in a blizzard. You know, where the highways are shut down and everything. We're driving through the blizzard, and we give a concert, and we could get $15. You know, it might be $15 in the plate.
Love offering.
Yeah, but God works in this way, man. We were making more money off the love offerings than we would if we charged the people. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Because we did it from our hearts. And one of those programs, we sang at the end of the program, this lady came up, and she had tears in her eyes. She said, I wasn't ready to keep on living. She said, this past week I lost my husband. You know, my sister's been diagnosed with cancer and stuff like that. And I just felt like, what am I living for? And she said, through the music that you gentlemen have done today, I feel good. I feel like I have a reason to live and keep on going. And my lead singer, Patrick, came up.
Great singer, that kid.
Oh, great singer.
Yeah.
He came up, and they embraced each other and cried on each other's shows. That, I remember things like that. I don't remember how much, I made $2,000. That doesn't mean anything, yeah.
There's nobody like you, Billy Shelton. There's nobody like you, man. We're going to take the eye blink right now, folks. We'll be right back. Quick eye blink for the audience. Oh, that was your eye blink. A second for you people, and about 6 minutes. I put a little more coffee in my cup. I didn't know if you wanted any. Are you good?
No, that's all right.
Oh, all right. Cheers, sir. I want to clink that glass. Cheers. Oh man. I'm so glad I have you here. I'm so glad. And we got to get into our Bosnia trip and all this.
Right.
So
this is going to take more than one broadcast.
Sitting?
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you. So meeting you was such a treat, and we got to do the do. And, all those shows, I mean, we did the thing, man. We were singing, and you're dancing and singing. And, again, you put me on a couple of, I got to do some of your shows, which were so amazing. I'll never forget that one at the Drury Lane Theater you put me on when we
Oh,
sang.
yeah.
I wasn't familiar with a lot of those songs from the Ink Spots. You had me singing some tunes from them.
Right. That's the amazing thing about you, Robbie. It doesn't make any difference about the genre or anything like that. If it's music, you feel it. Yeah, you know it.
I appreciate that, man.
The song, music is like fine wine or paintings. It never gets old. If it's good, when they wrote it in 1915,
Yeah.
it's going to be good in 2018, you know.
It's funny. I don't think people realize how much I really enjoy when I see Bruno Mars live.
Right.
I don't think people realize how much he's taking from like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Marvin Gaye, even some of the arrangements and stuff. I see a live Marvin in the show. And,
You mentioned Bruno Mars. I
Yeah.
got to tell you something about him. And this is unusual because he's a new entity. He's a young
Yeah.
in comparison. The first song that we have on our CD, which I want to give
you
to
gotta see a new CD.
it's called Assorted Flavors.
Oh, all
And,
right.
You know, and people say, well, what kind of music do you say? I love all kinds of music.
Yeah.
So on the CD, we're doing the Platters, we're doing the OJs, we're doing the Stylistics, we're doing the Ink Spots, we're doing the Jordanaires, we're doing the Coasters, and we've got Willie Rogers even on there on the
Oh,
list.
great. All right.
And the first song on there is Bruno Mars, the Lazy Song.
Oh, nice.
And we thought we would just do that to let people know that we're not old folk. We love the new stuff.
Oh no,
and
you guys are
everything.
amazing, man. You guys are like you still sound so good. Everything. Let me ask you this before we get into our crazy travels with the military and the NATO troops. Who did you love? Like as far as singers in the 50s and 60s or even 40s? Like who really turned you on? Who got you?
The same guy that turned me on turned on Pookie.
Okay.
We both love the same guy.
Who's that?
Anybody, and you probably have never heard of him before, and other people, I mean singers have never heard, but his name was Billy Williams.
Billy Williams.
And you can look him up. He sang with a group called the Charioteers in the early 30s, like in 1931, 32.
Uh-huh.
He had a tenor that was, you couldn't describe it. He could hit a note. He had such, and see, you can appreciate this. He could hit a note and you couldn't hear it. It would be so high. And he could slowly turn the volume on, you know, where you could, now you can hear it, you know.
Really?
He could hit a note, you'd be singing a song. He'd hit a high note, he was the first tenor. He'd hit a high note and let you sing the whole song. He's holding the note. And then when you ending the song up, then he'll come on down, you know. He was just impossible. He had his own style, and he sang with Bing Crosby. He recorded with Bing Crosby.
Oh, wow.
Frank Sinatra, all the greats.
Okay.
And he was the first black singer that I know of that was on TV regularly. There was a TV program called Your Show of Shows with Sid Caesar and Imogene Coca.
I know of that show, yeah.
It was 2
King's
hours.
a comedy there, yeah.
Yeah, it was a comedy. 2 hours it came on every. Well, his group was the staple group of the show.
Uh-huh.
And that's the first time you could turn on TV and see a bunch of black guys sing on a regular basis.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
But they did. They could do anything. Only 4 guys, you know.
I mean, how did you even deal with that? Like, you were traveling and touring in a time where racism was at an all-time high. How did you deal with it? You're so peaceful and you're such a wonderful person. You had to see some dark, terrible things.
That was where the church thing came in. I've been saved. One time I was traveling with the Emotions. Now those are my nieces.
Wait, they did the
Best of My Love.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
And
you got
Yeah,
Best of
and
my
Boogie
love.
Wonderland with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
They sang backgrounds in Boogie Wonderland.
They would. Yeah.
Wait, those are your nieces?
My nieces.
That's great. Okay.
So I used to be on the road with them. I was their driver, their dad.
Oh, nice.
Their dad,
little
had
road
music,
manager
yeah,
kind of. Okay.
And we went to a Holiday Inn at that time, and everybody was hungry. So, I said, Uncle Billy, could you get us something to eat? Find a restaurant. Well, we were down south. We were in North Carolina.
Oh.
And this particular Fayetteville, North Carolina, when you drive into the town, there was a big sign, a billboard, with this guy riding a white horse with the sheets on and the holes.
Oh, man.
And
like a KKK?
Yes, that's what it was. It says, support your local KKK. Help stamp out integration and communism.
Oh, my God.
And then when you get in the middle of the town, there was another sign. Then when you're leaving the town, there's another sign. So I'm not thinking, because I'm Chicago guy, I'm not thinking about that.
Yeah, it's more of a melting pot.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we go in this restaurant to order something. And you forget a lot of times back in those days, black people couldn't place an order. You'd have to go around the back door, and then they'd slip it out to you. You pay for it, and they'd slip it out in the kitchen. You couldn't come in the restaurant.
That's how that worked?
Yeah.
Man.
And so all the entertainers had to go through that. And
no matter who they were.
We were good enough, as Tom Langer said, we were good enough to have an auditorium packed with people, but we had to go in the back door. We couldn't go in the front door and perform, And they even had ropes where on this side, your black audience, this side, So all of that, but down south, they were brazen with it. I mean, it was just out in the open,
Wow.
All the police, the state troopers, they were all working together.
It was just a whole angry racist kind of vibe that they had to themselves.
I went in there with the band leader. The band leader was a 17-year-old kid with a lot of talent, but he weighed about 145 pounds, And
not the best bodyguard for you.
So we walk up on a KKK meeting.
Oh, God.
And these guys couldn't believe their eyes. My God. So look what the Lord has delivered into our hands. Because back there they could kill you and plant you for fertilizer and nobody would know about it. So I had been in the Army, and I was trained to analyze a situation,
Okay.
And I never will forget, it was a guy sitting there that reminded me of Hoss Cartwright, a Bonanza.
Mm-hmm.
Just his wrists were as big as somebody's thighs, And so I'm thinking, let me get this food and get out of here, because they're still in shock. And they got the guns and everything.
Oh, wow.
So I'm trying to get the food, and the waitress is so nervous because she knows she's dropping the food, and then they have to go back and get some more.
Yeah.
So while I'm standing there, I feel this hand around my neck.
Oh.
And it was more like a ham hock. It was this Hoss Cartwright looking guy. And he had a few drinks, And he began to squeeze my neck. The only thing that saved our lives was the fact that I thought it was the Emotions' father, Joe, because that's what he used to do all the time. Whenever I'd be someplace, he'd come up and put his hands over my eyes or grab my, and they all come. So when this guy started squeezing my neck, instead of me being terrified, I said, oh, come on, Joe. Come on. You like to play too much, you know. And when I turned around and looked to see where Joe was,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this guy's belt buckle. He's so big, I've got to look up. And he's there with that grin on his face like a cat that just got a rat, you know.
Yeah.
So I had to think my way out. I said, this guy's drunk. I could maybe outmaneuver him, you know. But I can't win because all of his buddies, we never get out of here alive. So I got to talk to this guy, you know. So I started talking to him, you know, and asked him to buy me a drink, because that's the first thing a drunk would do. You can get to him like that, you know. So he was surprised that I wasn't terrified, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't know. I was scared to death, but I couldn't let him see that, you know. And so he said, give him a drink. And what you want, Hoss? That's what he called me. And then I thought about it. I don't drink. So this really makes it bad. I said,
oh no.
Yeah, give me a Coke with a lot of ice in there. Yeah. I said, what? You know. So while he was up there, two of his buddies came and grabbed him and took him off, you know. They took him away.
Wow.
And it was a screen door I never will forget because it was hot. We got the food. I just left the money. I didn't want any change back. We headed for that Bonneville. Joe had a Bonneville, man. We ran to that Bonneville and dived. We just took a dive into the car. I had the key because I had locked the door, and the key went right in there.
Yeah. And
we got out of there. And when I got back to the hotel, I told Joe, I said, this is my last trip. I can't go anymore. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, but we had a lot of things that happened. But
sure.
That's how amazing
But your approach,
God is.
I mean,
yeah.
your approach is different.
The love is.
Yeah.
See, when people, I used to be able to walk through gangs, you know, and everything with a suit on, and they knew I had money, you know.
Uh-huh.
But number one, they see that I had no hatred for them and no fear, and I had respect for them, you know. And when you can come through like that, then it'll probably save your life, because I grew up in the ghettos of Chicago.
Yeah.
I had to run from gangs ever since I was born, you know.
Oh man, that's amazing stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to ask because I figured, you know, you came up, you know, in that world, but only you're one of the only people that I could see that just, you know, the love just sort of it comes through
love
your pores.
It conquers everything. Pure love, and
Yeah.
you know, not phony love, but I love everybody. You know, I don't see races or groups or anything like that.
Yeah.
And once you put out love like that, somebody's gonna feel it,
Oh
and
man.
they'll give it back.
Well, then you cut to some years ahead. Or no, wait, actually, I wanted to ask you one more thing. Was there anybody else during like the 50s and 60s that you totally loved hearing?
Well, of course, Jackie Wilson.
Jackie Wilson, yeah.
He was
a Chicago. Wasn't he a Chicago guy too?
Detroit.
Detroit. Oh, okay.
He was the ultimate
Yeah.
entertainer. This guy.
He inspired Michael Jackson a lot, right?
He's inspired Elvis.
Yeah.
And anybody like James, he inspired James Brown because Jackie was there first.
Yeah, with the moves and the voice.
Yeah, he had a voice. He could have been an opera singer because he had the pipes. And he was trained by the greatest. See, he started singing with Billy Ward and the Dominoes. Now, remember, 99% of all the black entertainers came out of somebody's church.
Uh-huh.
You know, I don't care what they say. They came out the church, you know. Clyde McFadden's father was a preacher. Marvin Gaye's father was Sonny Tiller, the Orioles, his father was a preacher. Aretha Franklin's father was a preacher. These are people whose father were preachers.
Yeah.
And all of them came through the church. That's where they learned how to sing and learn the rhythms and stuff like that. So
I think there's even something to the emotional content that comes out in that particular style.
Right.
It's really interesting how if I can sing soul music in front of mainly an African American crowd or black crowd, they feel it a little differently. And I love all audiences.
Right.
All audiences feel it differently.
Right.
But there's a church vibe that I get, and it takes me to a whole different emotional and spiritual place.
Right. You're singing from your soul, and people can pick that up.
Yeah.
You're not standing up reading some music, and hitting the notes correctly. You're really singing.
Oh, it's funny. I remember hanging out with, I can't even remember how many groups it was, maybe some of the Drifters. And it was on one of our hangs when we got to hang out with, the older groups. And you and I opened up the show with, because you and I got to sing with Stormy Weather and do a little doo-wop show to even open up, which was always nice, man. That was always fun. But I remember talking to all these guys and, as I was brought up on this old, obscure stuff. I wasn't just a Motown kid. I liked, Billy Stewart a lot and the
way
Intruders.
Before Motown came.
Yeah.
Motown didn't start it.
Yeah, and I like a lot of that stuff. It's funny because it's Chicago. A lot of it is Chicago soul, but I always call it East Chicago soul because my dad showed it to me and my mom had all the 45s, But I remember talking to all these guys and they were so pleasant with me, and they were, I guess, similar to you. They were surprised that I knew all. Like, how does he know Cowboys to Girls? Nobody his age should know. And I remember all this stuff. I'm like, I know, man. Sometimes, I wish I were around doing this stuff. Like, well, you were meant to do this stuff. I know, man. Sometimes I wish I were like a black guy in the '60s. And they said, yeah. No, you don't. They changed it. Well, no, careful what you wish for, son. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it, because they all had those journeys too. But man, there's a love that they all have to it as well.
That helps you when you go through all the tribulations. And the trial. That's part of the. How can you sing with soul if you've never been on the other side of the whip?
Yeah.
That's why the slaves, that's where the music started. It's from Africa and the slaves.
I feel like that's where the
pain,
emotional content, because I get, my dad taught it to me, but I would see it, on different artists, even Marvin Gaye, when in his last few years, I was just a little kid, but seeing him perform, they felt it, they felt it, and I the right song and the right mood. I get transported when I'm singing. I go somewhere else.
People can feel that.
It's a thing, man.
That's right.
Well, then you and I get that. So I'm lucky enough to sing with you. I'm lucky enough to have you steer me away from quitting. So then years later, we come back together and we're doing some stuff and neat stuff in the studio. I'll make sure I got to play like a song of you singing at the end of this show, by the way, so they can hear you. I personally love you singing "I Know."
Oh, yeah.
I love your version of that song that was recorded. It was just, I'm singing backups on that one, and I love it so much, man, because it's positive and it's love. It's very Billy. It's very Billy.
And it's Pookie too, because
did he write that one?
Was his style.
Did he write that song? Was it Pookie?
I think he did. Pookie wrote about 90% of the material,
Let me ask you this. I don't even want to ask any bad stories.
No.
As far as the famous people that you know and that you got to work with, who's one of your favorite just people? Like, who's just a sweet person? I mean, there might be a few of them, but I mean, do you have anybody, out of all the David Ruffins of the world or whoever you've come across that you really enjoyed?
You might be surprised, but Robby.
Come on now.
Robby is one of the guys that I idolize.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. Well, you stop and look at it. You have been so precocious in the music, and you're young, and you show experience. It's like you've been doing this for 100 years, and you know what to do to people. People experience something whenever you sing because it's from your soul, and everything. So I'd have to put you as on the top of my list along with a few other people. Yeah. But see, with the rest of them, even the ones that I used to idolize, somewhere down the road they got the big head.
Oh, I see.
Oh, how great I art, and stuff like that. But I've never known you to get like that,
Oh, I appreciate that, man. That's amazing. I should have brought you more cake. Well, let's get into this. This is you're tied to one of the most amazing experiences of my life because you and I both get the call, again, I just love singing with you, and we're singing with that group, and we both get the call to do a USO tour.
Oh,
and
man.
go over to we're in the Balkans, we're in Bosnia,
right?
I mean, and that was an experience. First off, the first thing that since we weren't Michael Jackson, do you remember the USO booked us on the worst flight there because we flew from
you and I were the ones running through the airport.
You know what? People don't even listen to him. You outran all of us. They put us on the cheapest connecting flights you could. Possibly, it was the most insane thing. We started in Chicago, and our first stop was Detroit. It didn't make any sense. So we had about 22 straight hours of flying, which would have been much better had it been direct, and just back and forth, and too many stops. But because when we finally got there, they gave us what everybody gave us. We got the same tour bus that Toby Keith had when he was over there, and anybody that's famous. Yeah, I remember that tour bus was super nice.
It was.
And I also remember us being surrounded by Hummers with the guns on them, and the soldiers were following us everywhere we went. Do you remember that? I remember getting out at a part in Bosnia, stepping outside, and the soldiers are with us. Do you remember any? It's just crazy.
Remember on the lighter note, where some of the guys were serious about our singing,
Oh, yeah.
And, I like to make jokes all the time. So they made us remember, bulletproof vests and helmets.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Said, why do we have to wear bulletproof vests and helmets? And I said, well, maybe they might have heard our latest record.
I forgot about that. Was that? I can't. Maybe that was Kosovo. Maybe
right, Kosovo.
Was it Kosovo?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to. Wow, I totally forgot about that. And it's interesting, man. I mean, that was an experience. Especially, what I thought was interesting is some of the bases. I think the Kosovo base we were on. They weren't built to have fancy dressing rooms. Right. So you remember that? Even the celebrities would come in, but you'd stay. I mean, they gave us our own barracks, but it was a barracks.
Right.
It's just a plain old barracks,
But we ate well, though.
I'll tell you one thing. I respect the military and all that they have to go through. And I wish there were ways for them to connect with family more and all that good stuff. But the one thing that they are not doing is they are not starving. Everywhere, every mess hall we went to, I mean, we ate like kings out there. They had it set up. Remember that?
I remember that. And do you know today, Robby, every time we start a show, we always open it up with the national anthem.
Really?
With paying tribute and respect to those soldiers over there guarding us with their lives. Isn't that something?
Oh, that's beautiful, man. I didn't know that. Man, now you just outclassing me. I think I'm going to do Dock of the Bay tonight.
No.
Oh, great. You're really outclassing me. I remember that, and I remember them telling us that, whatever we were eating that day, I don't know if you heard this, they're saying all the, at least American soldiers around the world were eating the exact same meal. Right. It was like clockwork and it's that organized. But the main thing I remember when we went to Sarajevo, and I think that was the NATO base. Yeah. So all those 28 different countries, I still have a plaque.
We performed for all of them, remember?
All of them.
And
all of them.
They loved it, yeah.
They were amazing.
You were doing your moves, man, and that knocked them out.
It was such a cool experience. I remember But I remember walking down the grassy path and seeing that UXO sign, and it stood for unexploded object. Remember
Right.
that? We
If you didn't drop it, don't pick it up.
Yes.
Everything was mine.
That's what they said. If you didn't drop it, don't pick
Booby
it up.
traps,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
So it was very amazing. And then even I mentioned this on the show before, but when we went to Bosnia and stopped at that little coffee shop. And I remember it was like skinned goats they had in the windows. That was their version of "come and get it," you know. And I looked at again. I'm sorry for our listeners. I know I repeated this story sometime in the past, but I remember looking at that beautiful mountainside. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It was gorgeous. And the soldiers were with us, and I remember telling the soldiers, like, "Man, I would vacation here." And then they said that there's something like 7 million unexploded mines
right.
all over that beautiful landscape. So they'll never be able to enjoy it, you know.
Right.
It was insane, but I mean, what a treat. And they were so appreciative.
Yes.
They were so wonderful. And my favorite story though, two things. I liked going to Vienna, and
Man,
you know,
that was something.
we sang by that church that was like centuries old. I remember that. And but I remember back on the NATO base, on the plane there, let me backtrack. On the plane there, you taught me how to play chess. I'd never played chess before.
Right.
Well, on the plane ride there, you're teaching me, and you know, you were so patient with my non-chess playing. So, but when we get there, we would go to whatever bar. Like I think everyone went to the Irish bar, maybe, or I want to say the Romanian bar. Which is funny because it's the NATO base, and you'd see like the Irish guys teasing the English guys, and I mean everybody from all the
nation,
all the nations would meet at this. That's where we're going tonight. We're going to, you know, they all had their own pub, but I remember going there, and all of a sudden, you just sat down. We were all having some drinks and stuff. You sat down at a table, and you just set up your chessboard, and you sat there patiently, and you kind of waited till somebody came along. Hey there, folks. Robby Celestin here. I'm breaking into the middle of my own episode. Just wanted to let you know, now is a pause that happened in the show because this is where my mom was sort of talking on the phone a little loudly down the hall. And this is when I stopped to take a quick pause to go and ask her to quiet down just a little bit. Again, it's a homegrown show. Come on, isn't that awesome? Oh, Mom. I also wanted to take this moment just to say, hey, reach out. Email me. You can email me. You can be a part of this show. Email me at achatteroffact@gmail.com. I'll keep checking the emails. Eventually, I'll start talking about them. Yours might be the first one that gets mentioned on this show. And yeah, let me know where you're from. Tell me about yourself because I want to know about my listeners. I appreciate the numbers growing every week, every month, every day. That's great to see. So I want to meet you guys. All right. Didn't I tell you Billy was awesome? He's awesome. Okay. I'm sure Mom has quieted down. So let's get back to the episode. I hope you're enjoying this. Here we go. So I took a mini pause. Again, I'm not used to doing this from someone's home. I went to ask. My mom is in the background just talking on the phone. I said, "Shh, better." You know, I told her, "Yeah, I hope she's not talking about, you know, knocking off a liquor store or something." It's just, she'll be heard in the background. But anyway, so you set down this. So if you notice a pause, that was literally a pause I took to say, "Mom, come on." I feel like I'm a teenager again here at my mom's house. "Mom, come on, I'm talking on the show." So funny, man. But anyway, you put this chessboard out, and you you just kind of waited. And eventually, it was the Romanian army guys, right?
Right.
A couple of them, you know, one would sit down, and you'd look at them right across the way there. And you'd beat them.
And I have pictures. I've got to find those. I've got the pictures. Do you still have your pictures?
I know I have some. I have a big stack of them, and that was like that was right before everyone on the planet had digital cameras.
And I've got a DVD.
Oh, you do? Great. Okay.
Did you have one?
I don't know if I had the DVD. You know, I can't remember.
I'll get But what happened?
Yeah.
Remember, Jimmy C was with us. You know, he was watching.
Jimmy Kalinsky, folks,
Right.
great singer who was with us on that trip.
Right. And so I think I beat the corporal first.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, because you went up the ranks.
Yeah, and then the sergeant came, and I beat the sergeant. Then here comes the lieutenant.
Yeah.
I beat the lieutenant. The captain, I beat him. Well, at the time I beat the captain,
Uh-huh.
these soldiers were required to carry their weapons with them, with the safeties on,
Oh, wherever he went?
wherever they went.
Oh, man, of course.
Because it could be an attack,
Yeah.
So what happened,
God.
after I beat the captain, you could hear the safeties coming off the click, 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 click. So, and they're mad. They're looking at, and so Jimmy Colenso came and whispered, said, "Billy, I got some advice to give you." I said, "What?" I'm happy because I'm doing my jungle.
You're cleaning
talk.
up. Yeah.
Not a walker. So he comes. He said, "Lose the next game." So, now, to be truthful with you, Robby, I don't know if I actually lost the game because the guy outplayed me, or whether I did it in fear of my life. But as soon as I lost that game,
Yeah.
then everybody started smiling, and the safeties were going back a click, click. So
I went home and told everyone that you defeated the Romanian army. I said Billy Shelton single-handedly defeated the Romanian army, who seemed like nice guys. But it was amazing, man. And again, that was like that's just the tribute to you and your mind and how worldly you are. It was a beautiful sight, man. And again, it's another example of no matter what situation I was in, I was always drawn to you. Like, there's Billy. Look what Billy's doing. I wanted to sit by you on the plane, and I wanted to hang with you. But not only that, and we kind of touched on this before, but I have to circle back to this.
Okay.
All those crazy plane rides. There were a couple times that we would make one stop, and we had, as soon as we landed, we had like 25 minutes to hurry up and get to the next plane. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we didn't know if we'd make it. You were the oldest one on that, group by maybe 20 years, and you outpaced everybody. You were a machine, man. You just plowed through one end of the airport to the other, and I'm watching you do this, and I'm feeling like, all right, I'm going to keep up with him, but I'm getting tired, and I'm a pretty active guy, And I think he has like 40 or 50 years on me. Like, it was crazy, Billy. It was so nuts. I was impressed, man. You walked like nothing.
Man, we had some great times.
It was amazing. I mean, that was, in my opinion, that was one of those life-changing shows.
Right.
Going to the other side of the world and singing for all these troops.
Other entertainers they cannot match that.
Yeah.
Here's a 14-year-old kid that goes into a recording studio. They record. The record takes off. The guy is a celebrity overnight.
Yeah.
He hasn't suffered. He hasn't gone through anything. He has no feelings. Here comes the money. Here comes the women, the drugs.
Yeah.
They have not experienced what we have. Yeah.
It's turned into kind of a fast food celebrity machine.
Right.
And the sad part of that is, like, I can see people out there who are young who can still sing and perform and who are amazing, Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, I see a lot of people that they've kind of manufactured. And you can tell there's a lot of lip syncing going on. But you can mainly tell, I mean, when I was a teenager, I was singing in bars like crazy. I probably shouldn't have been, but that's where I was able to sing.
Like me,
yeah. And I remember singing for like 5 hours. Like, I was in a 5-piece band, and we would sing for 5 hours and make $250, for 5 hours for 5 guys, and it just seemed like, why are we doing this? But I know that, and that was, I'm a teenager doing this, but I know when I came out of the other side of that run, just in a year's time, man, we were tight. And my voice was stronger, and I was just used to handling this show instead of having a bunch of people try to show you how you're supposed to do it. And then your instrument is never quite ready for that, much less the attention. I think that little bit of humility I would feel from doing some small bar for 20 people affected that, and it prevented me from ever having a big ego. A year ago I was at Miller Park for singing for 20,000 people, and I remember maybe that's why nothing goes to my head, because I remember thinking, well, I remember when 20 people were there, And how do you feel about this? When we're done here, I'm gonna do like a little unplugged show. I do these unplugged shows, right? Okay. I'll come back to town, and these are, I get paid to do them, but these are my fun shows.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's just me sitting down. I'm not really dancing around. Don't throw the hat on. It's just, you know, conga player, guitars. We're harmonizing, and I always tell Janice, I always tell my wife, this is my golf outing. This is my golf time. It's so much fun. So sometimes after doing, you know, Saturday, I was in front of this huge crowd and a huge stage, and it felt good at Bourbon Street, and that was great. But sometimes I prefer just this little. I'm going to be in front of maybe 60 people tonight in a private setting,
Right.
and man, I like that. I still like that little connection.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Hands-on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it feels like, you know, like, again, my Saturday show was great, but it felt like I was relating to this glob of people, and then I'll look over here to this, you know, where tonight I'll be able to point out one person, two people, and
right.
make a real connection. So it's kind of, I like both.
Just like this little interview, it's altogether different from anything I've ever done.
Yeah.
Because it's like being with my son or an old friend, you know.
Oh man,
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
Oh, so you're still doing it, and you're not going to stop. I mean, recording, everything else. This is you. This is what you do.
Robby, I had a singer one time, my lead singer told me, and I couldn't understand him when he said it, but now I understand. He said if I had a choice, he said I would rather lose my sight and keep my hearing. I said, why would you'd be blind, you know.
Yeah.
Why would you trade? He said, because if I lost my hearing, I couldn't hear music anymore.
Oh, man.
And I cannot live without hearing music. And I understood then, you know.
Oh, wow. You know, I hate to ask you this because people ask me this, and I hate when they ask me because I can never give them an answer.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have a favorite song? Because I have too many.
No, I don't have a favorite song. It's so many beautiful songs. You know, I named my first group The Moods because I would ask people that. We've got to, excuse me.
It's all right.
We have to entertain you.
Finally, you know, just so you know, at the 50-minute mark, most people start coughing over all the sweets that I give them, and you lasted an hour and a half. So you've beat every guest. I call it the 50-minute. So,
Too much cake. Yeah.
way to go, though, man.
Yeah.
See that? You're 30 minutes ahead of everybody. You lasted 30 minutes longer. That's a tribute to you right there.
Wow.
Oh, man. You see? You're the super guest.
Good grief. Yeah, but you know, all of the music
Yeah.
is my favorite music. The people would, the answer I would get, what's your favorite music?
Yeah.
They say it depends on what mood I'm in. And that's how I came up with the name The Moods for my group. Because
Wow.
we tried to sing music from all eras, you know, and stuff like happy music, music to make you cry, and music to touch the heart, you know,
Yeah.
and comedy music. And so it depends on what mood I'm in too, you know. Sometimes I just need to hear music to make me cry, and sometimes I need music to make me laugh, you know.
I'll tell you, man. You know what? The only thing I regret is I can't remember when we first met, and I can't remember when I first saw you do your thing because it's been a while now.
Yeah.
And I was going back, just trying to think. Like, I don't remember the first. I probably met you just at a rehearsal, you know, but I can't remember. You know, it's probably some small room or one of those conference rooms they'd put us in.
Doesn't make any difference. Yeah, it's going to end up the same way.
Yeah, man, it's a joy, man. It's a joy. And you were telling me you have a website. What is there or something?
Yeah, we've got a website. It's the Spaniels Forever.
The Spaniels Forever. And do you guys do like a number 4 forever, or is it actually the word forever? Do you know?
You know what? I'm not. I think it's the word for now.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
All right. That's your website.
yeah.
All right, there you go. So there you go, people. Find the spanielsforever.com, and then they'll find you and what you're up to.
Oh
and
man,
all that
I
good
had
stuff.
I had such a great time working with Jackie Wilson's son.
Wait, who's that?
This guy, I have some friends in Boston.
Uh-huh.
I was in Boston. The guy was showing me some footage of Jackie Wilson
Okay.
doing "Lonely Teardrops."
Yeah.
So I said, "Well, what's unusual about that?" He said, "That's not Jackie Wilson." What?
Sounded just like him?
No, it looked and sounded like him.
Wow.
This guy, you know, it's like he was a clone of Jackie. The DNA, everything, it's his son, Bobby Brooks Wilson.
Huh. And he's out there doing it.
And I got a chance to see him live and meet him at the Sabre Room in Chicago. You remember
wow.
the old Sabre Room?
No.
Okay, well, Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack and all the big stars used to come through there. It was like Contessa Del Mar's on that style.
Yeah.
And this was the last show that they had there because it's torn down now. And this was last year. So I was there and I got a chance to meet him.
Uh-huh.
And he wanted me to come backstage because he said, my dad told me about the Spaniels. And,
Oh, man.
And you're the last one. It's an honor for me to meet you and stuff. You know, and come to find out, he grew up with Bruno Mars.
Really?
Yeah. That was his buddy. They grew up together.
You see, this is why I like hanging out with you, by the way, because that's what you spout out. If I'm talking to a normal person and, we're just ending a conversation or part of a conversation, they might say, oh, I forgot to say this one thing. I had this one great sandwich at Jimmy's house.
Yeah.
But your whole thing is like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I hung out with Jackie Wilson's son.
Man,
these are the stories. This is why I like hanging out with you, man.
He's like Jackie Wilson reborn.
Really?
And we had the pleasure of working with him
Uh-huh.
out in Michigan. And he's coming back. We're going to do a show together and everything.
In Chicago or
Around this area.
Around the Midwest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He called us up.
I gotta, I don't know what yet, but I gotta get you on a recording or we gotta do something together because it's been too long. It's been too long since we hung out like this.
Right.
But it's been even long. I mean, I don't remember the last time we got to sing together. It's been a minute, so we'll have
I want you to hear the group too,
Yeah.
because you could appreciate.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And I want to come out and check you guys out. And hopefully the schedule kind of allows for it. So
Are you ever free on Thursdays?
Oh, look at this! Right on the show, we're making plans. Yeah. I can get a Thursday off, Billy. I'll come and see you on a Thursday.
Every Thursday,
Yeah.
we work at a place called Farmers Market in Elkhart, Indiana.
Oh, really?
Now,
I've heard of that place.
If
Yeah.
you can be my guest, we'll pick you up and take you out there, and they have the most amazing buffet, all you can eat, soul food,
I'm in.
greens and ham.
Oh, actual
hocks and-
soul food.
Yeah.
I'm in, man. I am in.
And
You do this every Thursday?
every day, tomorrow we'll be out there, and
What time of day do you do this?
6 o'clock.
Oh, people, go to Elkhart, Indiana. I don't.
6 o'clock.
Even you listeners that are outside of the Chicagoland area, get in a plane. Get to Thursday. Get to Elkhart, Indiana by
Right.
6 o'clock and see
Farmers
Billy
Market,
Sheldon.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh
And-
man, I
and
would love
man,
to go.
We can have a great time, and there's no way that you could come out there and not sing. They would arrest you with the talent that
Oh,
you.
man.
Yeah.
I would love to. Yeah, man, count me in. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'll buy you all the greens you can eat. Yeah.
That's good. Good. I'll walk out of there like a regular person, very regular in every sense of the word. Man, I can't. I can't. Most people when the show's wrapping up, I thank them just for being on the show. But you're a whole different story, Billy. Like I thank you for being in my life. Like you're a life changer. Anybody even if you didn't change the course of someone's life the way you changed mine way back when you told me not to quit. Anybody that meets you, their lives are changed because anybody that comes across somebody like you, they're going to be a little better off just because they met you. Because in music and in life, I don't know if I've ever met anybody with more love in their heart than Billy Shelton. Never. And that's a tribute to you, you know. I'm glad you were here, and I'm glad I've met you, because I love you dearly, man. I love you dearly.
And I love you too, man. You got me all choked up. Yeah.
Nah, you've made this world a better place, my friend. You know,
Well, we got to do some things.
We
together.
will. Yeah, I'm down now, folks. I'm gonna make sure I end this show playing a piece of Billy singing the tune that we recorded together, because it's an amazing song. And this is Billy Shelton. This is a legendary man in music and in life. And any of you singers out there that are listening, I hope you paid very close attention, because that's how you do it. Everything that this guy just said is just that's how you live, and that's how you sing, and that's how you work. And again, we're all very lucky that Billy Shelton is here. I almost want you to do your, it's weird, it's become so typical, I almost want you to do your to see us out. You have to give them a little bit. They keep hearing about you. Let me hear that bass lick of yours, man. Give me a little something.
Well, were you gonna play that?
I'll play it. I'll throw that on the original thing, but I wanted to hear just a little bass move out of you, or the. Goodnight, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Goodnight, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, but I really must say, take it home. Good night, sweetheart. Good night. That's Billy Shelton, ladies and gentlemen. Love him. Love this man. He's as good as it gets. Thank you for doing this, man.
Robby, God bless you, man.
Keep your ears on. We're going to hear him sing again in just a second. Take care, people. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your month. Enjoy your year. Go out and find your smile.
It's just like seeing an old friend, seeing your kid after years of not seeing him. You know, I want to thank you, Robby. This did a lot for me today.
Oh man, well, you're preaching to the choir. I love you, man. Seriously.
I know the angels would say, if you pass their way, gee, what a holy design. I know the devil would say, if you passed his way, wow, you set my world on fire. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, yes I know, I know, I know, I know, because my heart tells me so. I know the flowers would say, if you pass their way, gee, she has lovely stem. I know the dogwood tree would holler in the breeze, baby, you got lovely lips. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, yes I know, I know, I know, I know, because my heart tells me so. I know my mother would say, if I brought you home, son, never leave her alone. I know my father would say, she belongs on a throne. She's a queen in a class of her own. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, yes I know, I know, I know, I know, because my heart tells me so. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, yes I know, I know, I know, I know, because my heart tells me so.